Hi, I am Jerry and Quick, and I wrote the mud puddle theory with the goal to unite and bring us closer together as a nation with the truth concerning our dark past history, so that you can know and understand the underlying causes that are dividing us as a nation. Also, so that you can know and understand how it has and is still being used to divide us as a nation. Thus far in my videos, my main focus has been on what is dividing us mainly along racial lines, something which is crucial to know and understand before you can know and understand who, how, and why we are being divided. If you have not already watched my other videos, I strongly encourage you to not only watch my other videos, but also read the mud puddle theory, because it will take us united and working together to make the changes that will be necessary so that we can move into the bright new future that our children, grandchildren, and our future generations deserve. When you watch my other videos, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you will receive future notifications when I post additional videos in the future. Feel free to share my videos, and don't forget to leave your meaningful and productive comments so that we can have the meaningful and productive conversations, discussions, and our dialogues that are needed to get to know and understand one another so that we can unite and come closer together as a nation. It wouldn't surprise or shock me at all if we are closer than you think. In this video, I will be discussing economic inequality, and will be answering the question whether it is a myth and is based on false and or manipulated economic figures, or whether economic inequality does exist. This is a very, very complicated issue, and depending on whether you are talking about wealth, income, and or poverty, the answer would be yes. I've heard it said many, many times that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, which is true. Looking back on the past, our past history, this has always been true and is still true today. According to figures that I saw several years ago, statistics show that 97% of the wealth was owned and controlled by 3% of the people. More recently, I saw that 95% of the wealth was owned and controlled by 5% of the people. While this has closed the gap some, I don't really see that it has changed that much. In other videos that I plan on doing, I will discuss those who do own and control the vast majority of the wealth in the world. While there may be ways that we may be able to close the wealth gap a little, I can assure you that it will never be equal. As I will discuss in my next video, socialism and the wealth tax is not the answer to economic equality, but will only generate more economic inequality and poverty. My biggest concern, and probably the biggest economic issue that we're facing today, is the economic inequality and economic growth between the upper 10% and the lower 90%, most of whom are unskilled workers and who are part of the working class. While I will not bore you with all the statistics in preparation to do this video, I read over a report prepared by the Stanford Center on Poverty and Inequality, which broke the categories down into 20 different categories. Essentially, the report did come to the conclusion that approximately 10% of the people brought home over 50% of the wages that were paid out during any calendar year. This didn't surprise me, because those in the top 10% are the ones who are educated and have the skills that are needed to do the job that they are doing. While you may feel like the solution is simple and education and training is the answer, I can assure you that while that may help, that is not the magic pill that will bring about economic equality. First of all, one needs to understand that there are only a few number of those jobs that are available. Of course, this will create competition between those that are educated and qualified, which will only improve the skill level of those who are applying for and competing for those jobs, something which I strongly support and advocate in the mud puddle theory. While I know that there are those who support raising the minimum wage to $15 per hour to provide workers with an income that they can live off of and support their families, which sounds like a great idea, increasing the minimum wage would not be the answer. During the Industrial Revolution, government did step in and pass laws to protect the workers. Government passed wage and hour laws to provide safe places for the workers, and even laws concerning age restrictions. However, that was then, and this is now, and things have dramatically changed. We are now involved in a global market where we not only have to compete with China for our share of the market, but we also have to compete with India, Germany, France, and other countries, something which the USA did not have to do during the Industrial Revolution. And increasing the minimum wage would only lead to an increase in unemployment and would force smaller businesses to close their doors and go out of business. Simply put, it would put the smaller businesses in a position where they could not compete, not only with corporate America, but could not compete in the global marketplace. Since approximately 80% of our businesses are considered as small businesses, the minimum wage would lead to a lot of those businesses closing, which would be disastrous for our economy overall. When Donald Trump was elected president, I did have some serious concerns because of the state of our economy and how it seemed to be getting worse every day. Because of our tax laws and the regulations that were being put on businesses almost every day, and the additional costs that those regulations are costing corporate America and small businesses, some businesses moved to other countries with less taxes and regulations, and those that did remain were outsourcing a lot of production of their products to other countries like China, where the cost of labor and production was cheaper. Up to this point, even though he has been under constant attack since he has been in office, President Trump, over a short period of time, has done a lot to turn our economy around and has reduced our unemployment rates to lows not seen since World War II, which is amazing. Most historians and economists will tell you that the unemployment rates are always low during wars because of the need to furnish supplies for the war effort. Just think, we are not involved in a war and our unemployment rate is low. One of the first things that President Trump did was to do a tax reform act to reduce the tax liability for businesses down from 40+% to a flat rate of 20%. In the mud puddle theory, I had suggested that the tax rate be reduced to 15% so that it would be in line with other countries where our businesses are moving to. Tim Cook, who is the CEO of Apple, even stated in an interview on 60 Minutes that the 40+% tax is one of the major reasons why businesses are leaving and outsourcing the production of their products. Currently, Apple is building a facility in California where people will be trained to manufacture and assemble their products. And also other companies who have moved back to the U.S. and there were other companies who were planning on moving who are now staying, even though it did take a strong arm tactic by President Trump to talk them into staying. The main criticism that President Trump has gotten concerning the economic policies, his economic policies, is that his policies have benefited business and the wealthy, which is true. A very simple principle of economics that most people don't understand and recognize is that without business and the wealthy, there would be no businesses, there would be no economy, nor would there be any jobs for you to earn an income from to support yourself and your family. Without businesses and people to support those businesses, the USA would be a third world country, and not only would we not have a lot of the luxuries countries that we have today. But there would be those who would be starving and dying. While things could possibly be better, we need to thank God every day for the opportunity to live in a country where we are free, and even though there are those who may have more than others, we still have more than most of the other people around the world. While I'm sure that the information that I have provided thus far has been informative, I anticipate that most of you watching are probably more interested to know whether economic inequality exists between the blacks and the whites. The answer to that question is basically yes, but as I will demonstrate, it has and is still changing. When I started doing my research in preparation to write the mud puddle theory, since I'm white, I focused most of my attention on finding educated and intelligent blacks that read their articles and information and watch their YouTube videos to validate and give credibility to what I would be discussing in the mud puddle theory. To say the least, I found numerous blacks that would validate and give credibility to the subjects that I would be discussing. However, there were three that stood out that I was very, very impressed with. The first was Jason L. Riley, who is a journalist for the Wall Street Journal, the young man who I quoted in my video on affirmative action and will probably be quoting in this video and in some of my upcoming videos. Mr. Riley wrote a book titled, Please Stop Helping Us, and I recently learned that he has also written a book titled False Black Power that I will be referring to and or quoting in my upcoming videos. In my video on education, Is It Failing?, I quoted a black man by the name of Walter E. Williams, who writes articles for the Daily Signal on various topics. I have read many, many articles that he has written and have been very, very impressed concerning his knowledge and expertise on the subjects that he has written articles about. As stated earlier, I have already used a quote from him and will be using other quotes from him in my upcoming videos. Last, but surely not least, is Thomas Sowell, who has a degree in economics from Harvard, a PhD from the Chicago School of Economics, a degree in cultural and historical economics, and who is a social theorist. I've read several articles that he has written and watched numerous videos where he has been interviewed on YouTube. The man is currently 88 years old, and I have recently seen a couple of interviews that he has given. If I could only use one word to describe him, it would be amazing. Even at his age, he still has a remarkable memory and apparently has a photostatic memory because he doesn't forget anything. Even though I could probably spend the next hour or so talking about Thomas Sowell, I will not discuss and give you a lot of his history because of my goal to complete this video. However, I do recommend that you research him and read about his amazing life. The thing that impressed me most about Thomas Sowell is that to support his theories, he would always support his theory with historical facts, evidence, and describing the liberals, far left of today, the Democrats. He stated that their proposals were based on their beliefs, which may sound good, but they are not supported by facts, evidence, and by strong, rational reasoning, and I agree. Thomas Sowell was born on June 3rd, 1930, and lived through the post-slavery years and through Jim Crow black codes. And when asked what effect slavery and Jim Crow had on blacks, Dr. Sowell stated that blacks, in some cases, actually did better than whites during that time. Unemployment rates for blacks were lower than unemployment rates for whites. Their families were more stable, income was better, and so forth. When asked what had happened that had changed that had adversely affected the blacks, his answer was simple and to the point. It was the welfare state. What he was referring to was the Civil Rights Act of 1964, affirmative action, and governmental policies that were supposed to help the blacks, but were only detrimental to the blacks. He stated that prior to government getting involved, blacks were doing much better economically and financially, and that race relations were much better. In the mud puddle theory, I stated that prior to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and affirmative action, racial relations were much better, and blacks' economic situation was better. Prior to either, there was already a movement underway to repeal and do away with the Black Code's Jim Crow. Of course, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination of blacks and did away with the Black Code's Jim Crow before they could be repealed. In the article by the Stanford Center on Poverty and Inequality, one of the factors that was discussed was whether there was still discrimination against blacks concerning employment. According to the article, it concluded that employers were hiring employees with, quote, white-sounding names, end quote, and was thus discriminating against blacks. Even if true, my question is, were they discriminating against blacks because they were black? Or were they not hiring blacks for other reasons? In my prior video on affirmative action, I had quoted Jason L. Riley as stating that prior to the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and affirmative action, blacks are doing much better economically than they are now. Thomas Sowell also expressed his concern and provided historical facts and statistics to support his position against the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and affirmative action. In my video on affirmative action, I had Brother Jason L. Riley and Clarence Thomas, the only black on the U.S. Supreme Court, as stating that they were stating that they had a concern that affirmative action was putting blacks in a position where they could not be successful. Thomas Sowell also expressed the same concern. He had actually taught in one of the institutions of higher learning and had witnessed where blacks could not compete and were failing and or would drop out. In my video, Education Is It Failing? Walter E. Williams, who's a good friend of Thomas Sowell, stated that black children in public schools who had gotten high school diplomas could not perform at a ninth grade level, and for that reason, a lot of employers didn't want to hire them. Thomas Sowell, who had gone to high school in Harlem, stated that when he went back to visit Harlem several years ago, he wanted to see what the seniors of Harlem were studying and being taught. So he asked to see the subjects that they were being taught. He stated that the subjects that they were taking were the subjects that he had taken in ninth grade. Thomas Sowell is a strong supporter of charter schools. According to him, charter schools have outperformed public schools by a rather large margin. Charter schools are usually chosen by lottery because of the large number wanting to get into the charter schools. Of course, the charter schools have rather strict guidelines, and if selected, the students either comply with those guidelines or they're expelled and cannot get back in. The answer to my question is that the disparity between blacks and whites concerning who employers were hiring is not based on race, but is based on education and who is more qualified. While it appears that blacks are getting more opportunities to succeed, the system is not helping them, but is only hurting them. Thomas Sowell stated that when the government got involved to help blacks and create the welfare state, it has not helped, but has only hurt the blacks. He contends, as I do, that without governmental interference, things would have worked themselves out, and everything would be much better, not only for the blacks, but also for everyone else. Since my definition of a myth is something that is just not true, then what we have been told and are still being told is a myth and is not true. In my videos on economics, the class system, I stated that they have created and manipulated the truth and have been successful in dividing us not only into races, that has divided us, and now it's become a battle of the have-nots versus have-nots, a battle that we cannot win but can only lose. way to end the battle and win the war is to stop believing what we are being told and to put forth an effort to learn the truth. Once we know and understand that we are not on opposite sides, but we are actually on the same side, we will have taken the first crucial step to unite and come closer together as a nation to create the bright new future for our children, grandchildren, and our future generations. The old saying is, united we stand, divided we fall. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you have not only enjoyed this video, but that you have learned something that will help you to know and understand the underlying causes that are dividing us as a nation. Knowledge and understanding is the key that will unite and bring us closer together as a nation. Please like and subscribe below. When you subscribe, don't forget to click on the bell icon so that you will receive a notice every time I post a new video. Also, feel free to share this video. I not only welcome, but I encourage you to leave your meaningful and productive comments below so that we can have a meaningful and productive conversations, discussions, and our dialogues that we will need to get to know one another so that we can unite and come closer together as a nation. Please, no cursing, profanity, or name calling. I would also like to invite you to visit my website, themudpoletheory.com, and subscribe to receive my newsletter. While there, go to my store page where you can click on the Amazon icon and order the Mud Pole Theory through Amazon. You can also order the Mud Pole Theory through Barnes & Noble online, Books A Million online, and you can have your local bookstore order the Mud Pole Theory through England Publishers. Again, thanks so much for watching. God bless America.